Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Helotes City Council. It's January 9th, 2020, and we're underway at 7 p.m. I haven't made a mistake yet in writing 2020 on everything, so it's interesting to be in the third decade of this 21st century. I'd like to welcome all of you here tonight. Before we get started on the agenda, we do have some Cub Scouts with us from Pack 384. They meet at Forest Hills Presbyterian Church here in Helotes. And we have Tristan, if you would stand up. And Matthew, where's Matthew? There you go. And Levi, okie dokie, and Liam. Congratulations on being here. You all working on a citizenship badge or just what are you doing? That's it? Okay. Very good. Well, as we talked about earlier, after the meeting, you're welcome to come up and we'll answer any questions you might have. So hopefully you guys will be interested in the meeting and learn something. Okay, getting on with the agenda, we're going to start with the invocation. Tonight, that'll be handled by Council Member Fredericks. And then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance to the American and Texas flag. So if you would please stand for the invocation and pledges.
As we begin the new year and in thanksgiving to our Almighty God, let us be grateful for his benefits and humbly implore his protection and favor. Let us acknowledge with grateful hearts the many and significant blessings he has afforded upon us and our city. Please grant us the wisdom, justice, and charity to make the proper decisions here tonight. We ask that you grant us the proper counsel and guidance to do what is best for our community. May you bless and watch over those who are in service to our community. May you bless each of us with peace and joy. We pray in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Okay, next up we have our open session, citizens to be heard. Do you have the timer ready to go? Okay. If you, when I call your name, just come up to the podium and you'll state your name and address, and then you have 3 minutes from that time to make your statement, and please just address the council, and we welcome you all being here and signing to speak up. So first up, we'll have Jennifer Webster.
I have an audio recording. It's nothing vulgar.
Pardon me?
I have an audio recording. It's nothing vulgar. It's just an
That's
example.
fine.
Okay. My name's Jennifer Webster.
If you could speak into the...
My name's Jennifer Webster.
Okay.
I live at 14671-3 Old Bandera Road, basically where the two creeks meet at Los Reyes Creek and Helotes Creek. And
Okay.
my family's lived there since 1964. We're in Old Town Helotes, like I said. I'm probably the third closest to Flores, and I've never had the need to call any disturbance on Flores Country Store. I have called the police 5 times since September 15th due to the noise, crude behavior, and threats of physical violence against me coming from the VRBO/Event Center on Antonio Road. It's zoned R1. It's in a neighborhood, and I'm expected to believe it's a family dwelling. It has 1 bedroom, yet at most it sleeps 10 people. It's advertised that parties and events are okay. I never intended to live next to a hotel-like home where people rent it out to do what they cannot do and behave like they cannot behave in their own neighborhood. This is filmed from my bedroom. I probably have 7 videos like that of different times. The homeowner actually approached Helotes Police Department to do security. Tell me why would you possibly need security at a VRBO in a residentially zoned area? Last Monday night, actually Monday morning at 4 a.m., I heard a fight with extremely vulgar language. I did walk outside and said, "Be quiet, you have neighbors." And I was threatened with the worst thing that you can do to a woman twice. I've never feared for my life. I've never feared for my safety at my house, except for the past few months. For the first time in my life, I had my handgun out of my safe and next to my bed. I laid awake wondering if some drunk person was going to come over and harm me, or more importantly, my 6-year-old little girl who sleeps in my bed now. I've called the police 5 times that I've documented. They tell me to call every single time. Every time they say call whenever it happens. I spoke to the homeowner and she even said call the police when it happens. Unfortunately, by the time I call the police, the damage is already done. I'm awake and I won't fall asleep again. I don't know another person that has to call the police so they can get a good night's sleep. It's affected my income. I cannot work if I can't sleep, but most importantly, it's affected my security. Like I said, I've been threatened. I should not have to call the police so I can sleep at night, and the only people that can solve this problem are the people that are seated in front of me tonight. This is my last-ditch effort to solve the problem. I have contacted an attorney. I'm not going to talk to the people across the creek. I'm not going to talk to the homeowner anymore. I'm going to document everything. I guess that's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up, we have Tammy Patton. Point, what is it?
Poynton,
Poynton.
Poynton.
Welcome, Tammy.
Good evening. My name is Tammy Poynton. I own Helotes Country Club, 14687 Old Bandera Road. Just a few issues that I wanted clearance on is Old Town Helotes signs, which I'm trying desperately to grow my business that I inherited from my father. And the signs are beautiful that we have for Old Town Helotes, but if you notice, they're running parallel to Bandera Road, not perpendicular. So if you drive by, you don't see Old Bandera Road signs. They're beautiful, big oval cement blocks. So if you drive out there sometime, if you don't know it's there, I have people, we couldn't find it. Just that. The condos and apartments that are supposed to be, or being built or whatever, I know they were, it didn't go through a while back, and now they're supposed to go through. There's different things. Do we not get feedback on what's going to go up behind? That's going to be close to Jenny's property. It's close to my property, condo apartments. I can't find any definite information, but I have builders coming in to my establishment and saying stuff, and trees are going to be cut down, and easements and all kinds of stuff. I just wish we knew what was going on more in that area. The big thing that I wanted to bring up was the sewage smell in Old Town Helotes. That is affecting a lot of businesses. It is disgusting. I have people that will not sit outside of my business. I can't have the doors open. I know Pete's and Wine 101, the sewage smell through there. If you go spend an afternoon there, it's gonna be like every hour and a half. It is, you cannot deal with it. You can't sit outside and breathe. It is horrendous. The bridge is beautiful. Absolutely love the bridge. When are the handrails gonna be built? I own the property next to it too, and it's those temporary rails which goes down. My son lives on that property, and there's a space in between that's a danger, and it's those temporary rails still, and if someone goes in between, they're gonna get hurt. Besides it looking horrible, it's been a long time. I don't know why they're not completed. Been a long time. The circle, the roundabout, super cool. If you're leaving at night, the Old Town Helotes sign, if y'all drive there sometime at night, the light doesn't shine on the sign, it shines as you're driving. So that's distracting. Market days, I love market days, but from what I hear is you can pay for your space. As long as you pay, your space is there, you don't have to show up. And if you've been there lately, it's getting less and less and less. I don't think it's fair that they can pay their little fee and hold their space and only show up when they want to, where I know people that want to be part of market days and they can't because it's full. But then the vendors don't have to show up, they just have to pay their fee. And I know years ago, because they sent me plans, and I have them somewhere, that it was going to come down the other side of Helotes and try to grow it. And I would do anything I can to have it go past the bridge towards my business, towards Pete's, Wine 101, spread it out and make it like a whole big affair. I want to grow Old Town Helotes, so any feedback I can get, I would definitely appreciate. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Is Is that in here?
Yeah, that's the timer.
That's your timer?
Timer now.
I thought we were being raided or something. Used to it would just chime a little.
Welcome to the 20s.
Thank you both. And just so you know, we can't discuss any of this stuff, but we'll certainly, the handrails are coming. We've just been having a hard time finding people that'll bid it.
Yeah.
And some of the other stuff, I'd like to get with you on the sewage smell, so I'll touch base with you later. I know there was a problem up at Scenic Loop and Old Bandera Road, which I think Saws is taking care of, so if there's something else, I'd like to know about it. But I'll get with you.
I appreciate that.
Okay. Okey dokey. Next up on our agenda is our consent agenda. For those of you who are not familiar with our type of meeting, consent agenda is just a grouping together of a number of agenda items that are considered fairly routine business. They're considered routine by me and the staff. And the intent is to have them taken care of in one motion and one second. However, if a council member has a question on any of the consent items, they can ask it. If it can be answered briefly, we'll do that. Otherwise, they can ask to have an item pulled. It's just 2 items tonight, so we'll see what happens. This is consent agenda items 3 and 4. Are there any questions or requests to pull an item from the consent agenda?
I have actually a question.
Okay.
About the revenue and expenses on item 4.
Okay.
This is the current period, is it for the last 2 weeks, the last month? Or I'm trying to,
This is year-to-date from October 1 through January 31st.
January 3rd.
It says here January 31st.
as of January 31st, but what I'm saying is, it says, like, property taxes, 0,000. I've never seen so many zeros, in other words, for the current period. And I'm not exactly, I mean, there's all the way down, when it says current period, it's zero, pretty much all the way down, except for certain, $7.84.
Yeah, it just means at the time we ran this, we haven't received any revenue. If you look at the year-to-date actual, that's the dollar amounts that we've actually received. And you'll see property taxes, we usually get the bulk right at the,
That's what I'm saying, year-to-date actual and current period, but the current period is from what date to what date? Is it just for the last month? Because we get this every meeting,
yeah,
right?
pretty much. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So,
Okay.
so we haven't received a lot of money in the last 2 or 3 weeks?
Correct.
Basically. Okay, that's what that means.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's it.
Anything else? Okay, anything other than that? Okay, if I can have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 3 and 4.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept consent agenda items 3 and 4 as written.
We have a motion from Fredericks. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Holmes. Okay, any discussion required? We haven't had any requests, but just to make one last try. No discussion. Then we'll call the question. All in favor of approving consent agenda items 3 and 4, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Consent agenda items 3 and 4 are approved. That takes us to item number 5 under individual consideration. This is discussion of an action on an ordinance amending the assessment of a failure to appear fine and a violate promise to appear fine pursuant to Article 45.203C of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure in order to comply with Senate Bill 346. So if I can have a motion and a second to discuss. And I've asked Andrea Goff, our municipal court administrator, to be here tonight in case anybody had any questions on either one of these items. So if you have questions, we can get Andrea up to the podium to address your answers. So if we can have a motion and a second to discuss and take action on this item number 5.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we discuss and take action on item number 5 as written.
Have a motion from Massey. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Blue. Okay, Cynthia, it's your motion, so you're up first on discussion.
Yeah, I would like to ask Andrea a few questions, if you wouldn't mind coming up. I spent some time looking at the Senate bill, which, like most Senate bills, is difficult to understand. And I did notice that they're the ones who specify that we raise many of these municipal fines. I'm trying to understand, we only have, so we're raising all these municipal fines, or not all of them, some of them are actually being lowered a little bit.
Are you on 6 or 5? 5 is the failure to appear, which carries a $25.
Right,
Fine.
and before it was $25.25?
No, it was 25.
And so why is this being changed if it's already?
What's being changed is it can no longer be assessed on the actual violate promise to appear or the failure to appear charge. Now it must be assessed on the actual charge. Like, so if someone had a speeding charge and they did not appear, we would have to assess that special expense fee onto that charge, onto the speeding charge, but not onto the failure to appear charge. So originally it was, I know it sounds, it's really wordy, but originally it was supposed to be assessed on the actual warrant itself, which is the failure to appear charge. But now we have to assess it on the actual charge.
I see.
So that's why it's being changed.
But do they give a reasoning for this?
No, does the legislature ever give a reason?
There is no reasoning when it comes to the legislature on a lot of stuff.
This bill was a doozy on a lot of things. It was a lot.
But they just struck out the language special expense, and they're making it a fine or a fee rather than what they call special expense, so go figure.
Okay. Well, I mean, we basically have to do that, so we just have to do that.
Pretty
Even though
much.
it makes a little bit of no sense. Okay,
It's just a housekeeping
yeah.
deal. Thanks to the state legislature. Alex, anything from you?
That was essentially my question. So all we've done is move the 25 from one thing to another, but the same $25 fee appears in case they don't show up for their court date.
And how it's assessed,
Just-
correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's an accounting change, that's all.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Thank you.
Alan?
No questions.
Paul?
I guess now the question is, if someone has a speeding ticket and they didn't have insurance, so they have two citations and they don't show up, are they assessed $25 for each
They're
charge?
assessed $25 per charge, yes.
So actually, they will get $50
It would
now.
be more, yes.
It's gonna increase the fee, okay.
Yes, sir.
Actually, there are a lot of instances where we have people get stopped for a traffic violation, and they'll go away with sometimes 3, 4, and 5 different violations.
And so you get $25 each now, instead
If
of
they
one
don't-
failure to appear,
If
five
they,
failure to
right.
Wow.
Because
For
a traffic
offense.
stop will turn into, maybe it's for speeding, but then they'll find they don't have a driver's license, they don't have insurance, it just goes on. And sometimes they'll find people that actually have warrants out on them, so it's an adventure for our police officers when they're out there on the road. Anything else?
No.
Cynthia, any follow-up?
Well, that's just crazy that they have to add $25 to each failure to appear. Or they only fail to appear once, but,
I would like to add, our presiding judge, he doesn't usually assess all those fees on all the offenses. He's a pretty lenient judge. He doesn't believe in the excessive fines and fees added to the cases. So he would add it to one offense for that failure to appear, because we do that for all the other cases as well. So we can, but he's not gonna necessarily assess it on it per case or per offense.
And sometimes they won't maintain all the charges, too.
That's true.
Yeah, they'll just look at a couple of them.
so if we decide that we don't want to do this, is the Texas legislature going to come after us? I mean, what can they do to us?
Are you looking for adventure here? or- I don't know that we have that many failure to appears, but to me, if someone fails to appear, it's between them and the judge and the prosecutor.
Okay.
but you always have the prerogative of voting no to do this, I suppose, even though it is a Senate bill.
It's true.
Okay.
It's the rabble-rouser in you. Alex, anything else?
No, sir,
Alan?
thank you.
Paul,
No,
we're
sir.
good? Okay, then we'll call the question. All in favor of approving this item, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
So motion passes a vote of 3-1, with the nay being Councilmember Massey. Okay, next up, we have item number 6, discussion of an action on an ordinance amending Exhibit B municipal court violation codes of the fiscal year ending 2020 municipal fee schedule in order to comply again with Senate Bill 346. And in talking with Andrea, and she can explain this, that she sits down with the judge basically once a year and goes over the fines, and they assess them. The chart that you were given and is found online, in the column that says fine, that is the minimum fine. The judge and the prosecutor can go up to the maximum fine allowed by state law on this. So if we can have a motion and a second to discuss and take action on this one, that would be great.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we discuss and take action on item 6.
We have a motion from Fredericks. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Holmes. Paul, it's your motion, so you're up first.
I don't have anything else to add. This is just cleaning it up.
Okay. Alan?
I do have a question, Mr. Mayor. Actually, it's more of a concern than a question. I would like to discuss, I was going to say line item. It's offense number 3021. And I'm going to, if you don't mind, Alex.
Can you scroll to 3021? That's the passing a school bus?
That is correct. Passing school bus, failure to stop and remain stopped for a school bus. And what I'd like to discuss, that's a minimum fine of $750, which I consider to be a bit light for such a serious offense. We have children getting on and off that bus, and we've got other minimum fines for other issues that I consider to be less serious than that particular one, such as prohibited lighting, minimum fine of $2,000, hours of construction activities, $2,000, dumping prohibited, $4,000, and water conservation, $2,000 as minimum fines. Those are really they're non-life-threatening offenses. But yet, this particular one with our children getting on and off buses is a minimum fine of $750. The state, according to the state transportation code, has a maximum fine of $1,250 for this offense. I would like to raise that amount, Mr. Mayor, to an amount such as $1,000. So the range would be a minimum of $1,000 with a maximum of $1,250, according to state transportation code.
So,
Would you address that and what the judge told you today?
sure. So when I sit down with the judge every year, it's always around the budget time when we do our annual budget. He does not max out the fines purposely on the fee schedule because every circumstance is different. There's not a one fine fits all for each circumstance because everyone does have a right to come and have their cases seen before the court and for them to make a decision based on those circumstances or, anything that happened. So him setting the fine at the minimum amount is not taking away from the seriousness of the offense, but he does have that right to max it out if the circumstance for sure, it lost my train of thought.
Warrants it? Yeah.
If it warrants it, yes, ma'am.
So if I pass a school bus and I get a citation, I can come in and pay as little as $750, which I consider to be a hand slap for such a serious
It's,
offense.
so it would actually be, the fine amount is $750, but that's not including the court cost. So the court cost would include the 100 and, I believe it's 154 now.
Right.
So it would be actually more than that. But he is able to max it out depending on those facts of the case.
Okay, but that would apply to every offense?
Yes, sir.
The court fee.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So if council would decide that they would like to have that at 1,000 rather than 750, that would need to go back to the judge
Yes, sir.
for his input.
Yes.
So what we could do is approve it as it is, and then if we really want to do that, we can go ahead and make that recommendation to the judge and then come back and amend it
Yes, sir.
at a later date. Okay? Because I don't think it would be prudent to approve the whole list with the exception of, one item, when we can come back with that.
Should I make a motion to amend?
You can, but it would have to be upon the approval of the judge,
Understood.
okay? We'll see what the rest of the discussion pans out, and then we'll go from there. Okay, you, and anything else, Alan?
No, sir.
No other items, that's it? Alex?
Not on the base thing. If he's going to make a motion to amend, I have a question on that later, but not on this initially. Thank you.
Okay. On one of the other items, or?
No.
Okay.
On the one he's,
Oh, okay. Cynthia?
Well, I hate to disagree, but I do disagree with changing that. $750 to me is not a slap on the hand, and $2,000 is a lot. And I was noticing there's this big differential between a lot of these fines, and I don't understand the wherewithal of why. I'm not a municipal court judge, so I don't understand it. But to me, $500 is a lot. I'm sorry, but and this is passing a school bus failing to stop and remain stopped, $750. It doesn't say, and hitting the person and killing them. That would be a different charge. And then I'm sure that fine's gonna be huge, okay? So I think this is just, I think $750 is sufficient, and then as a minimum, and then it'll go up, depending on what the judge says. But, so I just disagree with your assessment that that's a slap on the hand. I think that, that 500, 750, and then it starts getting up. I think those are big fines, and so I just disagree.
And keep in mind, the state maximum is capped at $1,250. And by the time you add the $5 fee and the $154 court fee, the actual fine at that minimum of $750 is actually $909. Were you able to research how many of these passing the school buses we've had in the last fiscal year?
We had about 55
55?
cases. Yes, sir.
Where citations were written?
Yes.
Was anybody hit?
No. At least not that we know. There are some cases that are still on the docket that haven't come in yet, but no. Usually if there's an injury involved, it's an upgraded offense, so it wouldn't probably come here. It would probably go to the county.
Yeah.
Okay, Paul, any follow-up from you?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Alan, did you want to make an amendment?
I do want to make a motion to make amendment on item offense number 3021. Passing school bus, failure to stop and remain stopped. Changing that amount of $750 minimum fine to $1,000.
Okay, again, we'd have to be very specific on here, that amendment would be pending the approval of the municipal court judge, because I'm not sure that council has the authority to, adjust these without approval from the municipal court judge.
Understood.
Okay. So with that, is there a second to the amendment to the motion? No second being heard, the amendment will die then. So this takes us back to the main motion of discussion and approval of the fee chart as presented. Is there any other discussion? Alex, did you have anything else?
Since the amendment didn't pass, I don't have any other questions because we're not going to discuss something that didn't, isn't on the table.
Okay. Cynthia, anything else? No. Okay, then we'll call the question on the original motion, the main motion, which was to approve the fee schedule as presented by municipal court. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, we have 3 ayes, or yes votes, and we have 1 nay vote. Councilmember Holmes. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
It's next to the last page of the book.
You guys are seeing some interesting stuff tonight. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and adjourn into a closed session. This is a closed session in accordance with Texas Government Code 551.074, personnel matters. In addition to the matters listed below, any matter scheduled for open session may be discussed in closed session as appropriate and authorized by law. Section 551.074, personnel matters, will consist of city council will meet in this closed session to discuss the negotiated contract terms of the preferred candidate for the position of city administrator. And we're going to adjourn at 7:31, and this hopefully will not take longer than 15 or so minutes, then we'll be back in. You guys are welcome to stay until we come back into session. Otherwise, thanks for coming. Okay, we're back in session, and it is 7:53. And we were in closed session in accordance with Texas Local Government Code 551.074, personnel matters. City Council met in closed session to discuss the negotiated contract terms of the preferred candidate for the position of city administrator. No action was taken in the closed session in accordance with the government code. However, we do have an item now, item number 8, which is an action item and a discussion item, and that is to be able to take action on the business that was discussed in the closed session. And so I would entertain a motion pertaining to the employment of the new city administrator and the resolution that goes along with the employment agreement. So if I can have a motion and a second on the resolution to approve it and approve hiring the city administrator.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make the motion
Okay.
to approve a resolution of the City of Helotes, Texas, approving the terms of agreement between Marion V. Mendoza and the City of Helotes for employment as city administrator, specifying job duties, the rate of compensation and hours of work, providing for severability, and setting an effective date.
Okay, do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
We have a motion from Massey and a second from Blue to approve the resolution that authorizes the hiring of the city administrator, Marion V. Mendoza. Any discussion? No discussion being heard. We'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. And I appreciate it. And that takes us to the end of our agenda. If there's no objection from any council member, I'll adjourn the meeting. No objections being heard. We're adjourned at 7:55.